When I listen to Audible, I'm not riding the L train during rush hour. I'm hunting whales with the crew of the Pequod. I can feel the cold air in my face and the icy spray of the Atlantic crashing against the bow. The smell of rotting blubber fills my nostrils. There she blows, boys! Dead ahead! It's the White Whale! This is my stop. Excuse me. Pardon me. Sorry.
Go to audible.com/start trial and your first download is free. Audible. Stories that surround you.
Blog Talk Radio.
that was a song by my guest tonight, Auger. It's called Silent for Eternity. And yes, the song is almost 6 minutes long, but you know what? If it got your blood pumping, that means you're listening. This is Off the Chain. I am your host, Yvonne Mason. Tonight we have two marvelous, wonderful, dark hours of music, discourse. Who knows what else with Off the Chain? My co-host tonight is Andrea Dean Van Scoyet. See, I can't talk tonight because I'm tired. Who is my partner in crime. She's also known as the Bohemian Celt. She does vampire interviews, reports, all kinds of good stuff. She has her own noir production studio where she makes films. She is a former author who decided that she would go on to bigger and better things, so you have to check her out on Facebook. Now, my news tonight is, before the show started, I got a phone call from Sky Vision Studios, which is a production company out of England. They work for Investigation Discovery Channel. They will be interviewing me at 9 o'clock in the morning for my take on the serial killer I wrote about, Gerard Schaefer and Silent Scream. This is for a documentary that will be shown, I don't know when. So I'm excited about that. But tonight it's about Auger. Now let me tell you about this young man. He's fascinating. The Auger Project is an electronic, industrial, goth rock hybrid musical endeavor, self-defined as NEO Industrial Goth Rock. Now say that fast 3 times, ladies and gentlemen. It is the brainchild of artist-musician Chris Lefort. It can be best described as a lyrically driven construct of industrial rhythms fused with underlying classical melodies, churning guitar riffs, and theatrical punk-like vocals. The results at times can be hypnotic, haunting, angry, and often full of dread. I can't wait to talk to Chris. I'm just so excited. Classically trained, ladies and gentlemen, as a pianist and formerly trained on percussion, Chris's tastes were drawn to the darker musical notions of bands like Black Sabbath at a very early age. Now, from the picture I'm looking at, he can't be very old. He's still a baby in my book. Black Sabbath, he started at 3, I know. Influences expanded and evolved, and many remain to this day. Major inspiration continues from artists and groups such as Wendy Carlos, Skinny Puppy, Current 93, Basil Poledouris, the Sisters of Mercy, 9 Inch Nails, Prodigy, and Claudio Simonetti GOBLIN. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Andy. I'm so excited you both are here.
Thank you so very much. I'm very, very happy to be part of this.
Me too. And you had me at Skinny Puppy. I'm an 80s. I'm an 80s person. You had me at Skinny Puppy. I was like perked right up. Woohoo!
Well, the only one I knew was 9 Inch Nails. So y'all both had me. Chris, your bio is absolutely amazing. Even without Black Sabbath, you trained as a classical pianist?
Yes, I did for a number of years. Something we have up here in Ontario, Canada, the Royal Conservatory of Music. Studied in both theory and practical for, almost half my life at that point. I was started about 4 years old. I think I ended up leaving the piano studies at about 16 or 17 now. It's quite some time ago for me. And then I got into percussion simply because I was drawn to that. I was in high school, and, everyone wants to beat on the drum at that point in their life. So I took that very seriously, formally trained in percussion. And by that, I don't mean just the 5-piece kind of drum set. I mean the kettle drums, the whole 9 yards, xylophone, the truest sense of the word as a percussionist would go. Big bands, jazz bands, the whole thing.
So let me ask you something.
Absolutely.
This amazes me because there are classical musicians in my family, and to be able to transition from classical music to the beauty of what you produce now. How did you get from that point to here? Tell me about this journey. I'm excited about hearing it.
Well, that's an interesting question. I never really considered it as a sort of a how shall I say this, a direction I was choosing to go or actually consciously aware of. I think what happened, it was almost a rebellion of sorts when I became a teenager. Classical wasn't cool anymore. I wanted to be part of what was going on in my youth at the time. Punk rock was obviously under full swing there. It was sort of the early 70s, I guess. The early 80s, late 70s. It was actually on the decline, but I kind of caught the end of that. And then the whole black metal, death metal thing was just emerging. And you've always had that sort of classic rock. It's still existing today, I think, at every level. People still listen to Led Zeppelin. I talk to kids today, they know Zeppelin, they know Sabbath. The classic rock is just that. It's classic. It seems to be timeless. So I caught a lot of that as well because those influences were always there. It'd be very difficult to deny something like, for example, obviously Bowie's been in the news lately. Considering his death and everything else. This guy influenced generation after generation after generation. So no matter where you stand, you're going to hear his stuff in one form or another. And I think that's really what happened to me is I just got swayed by this other stuff because I had the aggression of a youth. And at that time, that was very powerful music, very moving music for me. And I think it's just a matter of breaking away from the classical tradition, which, by the way, I will never deny is one of the most fundamental foundation, piano in essence, as a foundation instrument, it is absolutely essential. So for kids out there today who are by chance listening or, parents who have children and want to get them involved with music, piano is a must. It teaches you everything. And from that, as I think I'm a pretty clear example, you can literally pick up any instrument and, once you get the basics down, you can go from there because it's all relative. So again, go ahead.
Do you remember in the interview I did with Cypher, and we were discussing classical music versus the industrial music that you in that band do, and we were talking about Mozart and Beethoven, and in their day, they were the rebels. They were the industrial rock musicians.
No doubt. They actually were. And again, if you study classical and get into it, you realize, every generation has that sort of undercurrent and that movement. They definitely were on the edge of that. They were definitely pushing the fold, if you will, in that time period. And we see it today too. There's stuff coming up from the underground. Some of what they call now, what is it? Oh goodness, I'm trying to think of the name. There's so many delineations of music as genres now. It's hard to actually remember all of them. But it's getting actually quite complex, and you really have to kind of look at things with a finite, spectacle of sorts and say, hey, this is what delineates this from that, or et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to call it Ghost House because I can't remember the other name. This is a new upcoming movement now, and it's sort of a trancey kind of rhythmic electronic music. And it seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. And, it's rebelling against what's happening today. It's hard to avoid talking about politics when you talk about music nowadays. Both of them are intertwined. Some of the most popular bands are very political. And what I find a lot of the time with regards to music, and I'm sure we'll get into this further in the interview, is that music will tend to illustrate or mimic what's happening in society, or at least counter politically what's happening. There was a time in the late 80s to the mid-90s where techno was sort of the catchphrase for electronic music, and it didn't really involve a lot of lyrics or content in the sense of politics or anything else, but there wasn't much for people to be upset about or angry about. There wasn't a lot of rebellion going on, so music kind of reflected that, and it just played the music for the sake of the sound as opposed to what it was saying. And I think what's happening now, as we all know, given since 9/11, there has been a massive shift in interest in the sense of the public consciousness. We have this terrorism element. We have, conspiracies have become mainstream. Governments are toppling and being toppled. And there's a lot to be concerned about at this point in time.
Well, that brings me to my next question. For the listening audience that doesn't know what your genre is, industrial goth, explain to them break it down. They may know
Sure.
what goth is, but they don't know where industrial came from.
Okay, well, industrial basically, it almost takes a step back from the concept of what or how sound is created. So get rid of all your classic instruments, guitar, piano, etc., and just look at the root of sound. And you try to develop sound through, at that time, I guess it was the late 60s roughly. I'm not a historian with regards to how that all became or how it came about, but essentially it's using blunt objects, instruments such as table saws, hammers, cans, this kind of thing to bring together a sound literally made from industrial equipment, the breaking of glass and these kind of things. And you would sample this stuff and you'd put it together to form essentially a song or segments of a song, and you piece it all together and you create these interesting melodies. And that somehow that caught on. Don't ask me how, because like all experimental music at the time, it was pretty obscure, pretty radical. But I think a few people put it together and made something out of it, which was somehow, let's call it, commercially viable in an underground sense. And it just sprouted from there, because once you have something that makes sense to people, consciously or even subconsciously, they're gonna latch onto that, and they're gonna want more of that. And that's essentially how it grew. With the advent of keyboards, really coming out of the 70s, people like Wendy Carlos, GOBLIN, Claudio Simonetti, one of my main influences. He's actually a classically trained musician that was put together by a film director, Dario Argento, to score his films. So basically he put his own band together to create music for his films. They're known as a progressive rock band, but they were very experimental, and all sorts of things were going on there too. So I would almost put them into an industrial kind of sound. All this stuff kind of changed through the course of time. People added conventional instruments into this. We have bands like today, Nine Inch Nails, which is known as an industrial band, but they've progressed far beyond that at this point. And so, essentially what I'm trying to say is, yes, I have the industrial roots. That's where the industrial comes from. The electronic music, the background noise. Every so often I'll throw some very interesting effects in there. And that's a fundamental drive for what I am and what I do. The Gothic element of my music and goth in general is sort of a dark rock and roll, and I can't even tell you where that originated, but essentially it's bands like Sisters of Mercy, Bauhaus, I'll use the term vampiric because that's always associated with goth as it stands, kind of a lot of reverb on the vocals, giving it sort of a ethereal sound. The goth is there. And, of course, when I talk about punk, I don't think anyone on the planet doesn't know essentially what punk is at this point. It's just loud, angry music at a very fast tempo. It had a massive political movement behind it when it started. That has changed dramatically. I don't believe today's punk rock is even remotely relevant in the same sense that the punk rock in the 70s was. But, again, that's different time, different place. But the idea behind the music, in the sense of the rhythms and the type of guitar chords that are used in that's all very much there, and the anger is still there. Some bands do it better than others, of course, but it's all put together. And essentially, Auger, my sound, is an amalgamation of all these things, and I think I've described it best. But I put NEO on there because it's something new. And again, when you write music as any musician, everybody wants to be unique. Everybody wants to say, hey, my sound is different than everybody else's. And I'm no exception in that. Yes, I'd like that to be the case. However, I don't know that it is so much. The people will decide what it sounds like. If I'm identifiable by my sound, is it something unique or different? I don't know.
Does it make you happy? You there, Andy?
Oh, I'm here, honey.
You are unfamiliar.
Oh, there you are. We lost Chris for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. That happens sometimes with live radio. But you're back. You're back.
Skynet.
I can't. Yeah. I can't imagine
Andy,
where I cut off then, but yeah.
Before I ask Chris the next question, do you have any questions about his music and the darkness of it and what we've been talking about as far as the industrial side? Because you're the one that turned me on to him.
I just loved his sound. I was introduced to him. I mean, I know that sounds simplistic, but you know how I am, Yvonne. You know as well as anyone with me, it's just a matter of simplicity. I was introduced to his music by a mutual friend, And Chris was good enough to send me his CDs. I played them on my show when I still had the Dark Apostles Bewitching Hour. And his sound was just unbelievable. It was everything that I loved. It was the industrial. It was the hard black metal. It was everything. And I can't get enough of it. That, like I said, that's simplistic, but just from someone that doesn't have any musical training, that's all I can tell you is just I heard it. It just scored with me, and I listen to him all the time.
Chris,
wow,
you
Andy, thank you so much. That's fantastic. I think I'm blushing here, but wow.
Well, on that note, my friend, as ladies and gentlemen, you all may have noticed that my wonderful guest has this amazing accent that I could.
Yeah, I know. I can't get enough of hearing him talk. I'm just like, keep talking, Chris, keep talking.
Don't shut up. Just keep going, keep going. Two things, my friend. I would like for you to tell the audience. I know the answer. Andy doesn't. I would like for you to tell the audience why the name of your project is Die Auger.
Okay, sure. That's it's actually a little more complicated than perhaps even you know, Yvonne. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Essentially, the band actually was Die Auger with a U. How should I say this? AUGUR as opposed to an ER. I physically changed that years ago to spell it D-I and the next word AUGER because Auger at the time I felt it needed to be a little more angry. So I wanted to put the E on there. And it just so happened, in doing some research on the German translations and this and that it's actually the equivalent of saying what these eyes have seen. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. Essentially, it's my experiences, my views on what I see every day. So Die Auger is a bit of a sense of foreboding. It's a sense of what I have seen. It's a sense of prophetic profundity in there. That's essentially what I've kind of put it together to mean to me. But I'd be very interested if I'm on key with what you had figured or thought.
According to what I found out about you, that's exactly what it says.
Okay.
Because the translates from German as what these eyes have seen.
That's right, yeah.
And
so you got it.
When you listen to Chris's music, that's exactly what it is. It's what his eyes have seen. It's his experiences in life. It's his things that he's done, things he's seen, things he's experienced, and he's put it to music. To be able to do that he's a storyteller. He is a storyteller to music. Am I right, Chris?
You are. I thank you for picking up on that because it's very interesting. As a musician and an artist, I'm a visual artist as well. I know Andy realizes that, but I don't know, Yvonne, if you realize that. So, I mean, I've been to art school formally and things like this. And, yeah, I'm a big fan of concepts and stories, and I've always been fascinated by them and being able to sort of tell a story. I mean, it doesn't matter the medium. I'm interested in the idea. And so for my music, a lot of the times, I mean, I'll read many books. I'll read, goodness knows anything, graphic novels to full-out novels to, I'm a big cinema fan. I just like the concept of a story being told. And my influences, if we go there, are sometimes picked up directly from these things that I experience, if not most of the time picked up from that. And essentially, my view on that, my take on that, or my view on that particular subject. And, I try very hard. In fact, as I've progressed as a musician, I'm trying more diligently to get that pure kind of story across as opposed to being abstract, which sometimes happens when you write lyrics to fit the music or you're just kind of just spontaneously creating something. I'm trying to sort of reel in that spontaneity and just be a little more focused with regards to how the story comes across, what I'm trying to interpret, and the message I'm trying to deliver. And I think in the forthcoming album, which will be out first quarter next year, I think you're going to start seeing some of that really, really come through a little more powerful in the sense of the direction and what I want to say. But yes, you're right on the ball with that.
In that same vein, and what you said earlier about how, and in the 60s, we had the Vietnam War, and the music reflected the anger and the protestations and the frustrations with the war. We knew we were never going to win. And
absolutely.
What you have done, you have put together a beautiful, beautiful rendition of what is happening in this country. Now, I find it interesting because Americans are so in the pits that they can't crawl out, they can't see their nose in front of their face, and they would cut their nose off to spite their face because sometimes most of them are idiots anyway. But that being said, you as a Canadian have stood from afar and watched America totally try to decimate herself in spite of herself. So I want to play your song, American Voodoo, because as soon as I played that song, that entire song all the way through, I thought, he gets it. He absolutely gets it, and we are too stupid to see it. So let's
I know.
play
I thought
song.
that same thing about Chris. I'm like, Chris is Canadian. He's not even American, and he gets it better than most Americans.
Yeah, because he's not down in the bottom of this well that we all have seemed to fallen into. Let me play this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost a 5-minute song, but it's well worth your listen. And I want you to listen to the words, and then after we get through the song, Chris, let's talk about it and get your take
Absolutely.
on all of this. Okay,
Certainly.
hold on. Auger. My guest tonight, his name is Chris. Auger is his project. And this is Off the Chain. I am your host, Yvonne Mason. My co-host tonight is my friend Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. I'm so excited. But we are discussing Chris's projects and his music and the impact that our society today has on music. And this is true whether it's today or 20 years from now, or in my case, way back in the dark ages when men still dragged women around by the head of the hair. Chris, what is your take? Don't laugh. It's funny. Chris, tell me about this song and being Canadian, how you stood outside of the veil and watched America just try to implode.
It's interesting hearing the perspective from an American as to where Canadians stand. You use the term outside the veil. I think you would be surprised as a people how many Canadians follow American politics, and for that matter, I think the whole world does. I mentioned this in an interview with somebody else not too long ago, as this conversation seems to come round. Essentially, Americans, in a sense, the President of the United States dictates policy to the world, at least even if it's indirectly, it's a reactionary kind of thing. What happens in the States affects Canada greatly, and I mean greatly, be it their politics, the price of oil, whatever the case, who and what goes to war. It's all very, very much something that will have an impact, or usually a direct impact, into how Canadian culture both sees Americans and how we participate in events with America. So from where I stand, although I don't vote, consciously I have a vote thinking, this is where I want the American president to go, or what I want him to do. And I think you'd find many Canadians who are politically inclined, at any rate, the ones that pay attention to this stuff. It's very much both interesting and influence, and has a direct impact on our day-to-day lives. So writing a song like this wasn't as foreign an idea. It's almost second nature in a sense. If I talk politics, American politics get thrown into it because it's so much an integral part of what happens to my life and what policies are made here in Canada. We either follow suit with Americans or we mimic what you do. Very rarely do we take a stand on our own and make our own policies and say, we're going to do something completely different. Usually there's some cohesion there. So, Canada managed to survive a little bit of this recent recession, which I truly believe is not nearly over. But, that becomes a lengthier conversation. What I'm going to basically say here is that we are affected. We see the effects in the U.S., maybe not firsthand, but certainly through our media and the Internet and everything else. It's pretty dramatic what is happening. We seem to think we know the reason, or at least publicly, we're told the reasons, being the housing market and all the essential elements that combine to make that happen. However, there's a lot more on the horizon going on here. And again, the people that are into the conspiracy theories about, who owns the money, who prints the money, we talk about the reserve banking system. This is all coming down. It's all flawed. There are movements now in Europe that are changing things, very slowly. I know Hungary, interestingly enough, as I am a little Hungarian in me, I do follow occasionally what's happening, and they have recently, I believe, I guess the Federal Reserve, or the equivalent of over there, has been sort of boycott, and they're creating their own currency now based on minerals or something to that effect. I know Iceland is making some moves. Germany is making some moves. So there's sort of a world consciousness that understands things aren't getting better, and we need to find alternatives. It's just a matter of who's going to find that first and who's going to take advantage of that particular element. So, again, getting back to the song, I look at this and basically what has happened, not just to the American people, but people in general. It just seems, again, America is such a dominant force that to write Canadian voodoo, it just wouldn't come across as powerful is what I'm trying to say there. Let's face it, there needs to be a change. We all know this. Subconsciously, we all know something needs to change. Usually, in the course of history, something breaks before we fix it. Which is the real downside because it hasn't broke yet. It's like a rusty wheel. I mean, it's still working, but boy, oh boy, it's going to break any day. And something needs to be done. The people need to get a little upset. I know many of them are, particularly in America. You have a much stronger activist sort of population than we here in Canada. And certainly I've seen some of the protests about all sorts. And, let's face it, the big hot item right now is politics. Trump is there, and he's not going away anytime soon. And there's an extreme amount of publicity here in Canada. It's talked about all the time. It's aired on every channel. We're relative. We see what's going on. But to mention a comment you had said before, Yvonne, about just prior to playing the song, you were mentioning about the Americans, some of them being, let's say, not so smart and not seeing these elements. There are stupid people all over the world, and I've met many of them. I've traveled everywhere, and it's fascinating. As a global society, we have gotten to where we have gotten. At times, I shake my head. It is unbelievable. And that's why these people in power have been able to do what they've been able to do. Some of them are incredibly intelligent. They see things well beyond the average person. You got to give them credit. They're not dumb people that are running the show. At the same time, enough is enough. We need to make a stand and figure something out. And I'm not saying it's a call to arms or anything like that, because, immediately people do sort of revert to that old, it's almost instinctual, this is how we have to do it. There needs to be some changes. We need some major political changes. In Canada, we have a few parties now, a little bit. We have three, and some of the independents that are coming up are getting quite a bit of momentum. There in the States, you're still with the big two, and you got to have another option. Particularly noticeable in this election, you need other options, because the ones that are being displayed for you there are just not, on both sides of the fence, they're just not good enough. They're not acceptable. Never mind not good enough. They're clearly not an acceptable choice. So where do we go?
I
answer
agree
some of
with
the questions you posed.
I agree that we have too long, and I'm sure Andy will agree with me as well, we have too long kept our heads in the sand. I remember back in the 90s I wrote an article and said, look, as long as someone is saying, well, not in my backyard, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening. We're going to implode. And all of the great civilizations, I think I wrote an article on my Facebook page about this the other day, all the great civilizations imploded. And they imploded because people became complacent.
Well, that's what happens. In fact, it's interesting because I had, I don't know, it was just sort of a realization there, as people do. I was in a cafeteria not too long ago, I guess a week ago or so, when the second debate was going on there. And I had turned it on because I wanted to catch some of it. Obviously, I'm a little politically inclined. I'd like to know what's going on and see how things pan out. And I got into a bit of a little verbal kind of conversation or argument with some people there who wanted to watch the baseball game. And I was completely astounded at the number of people that would rather watch, the baseball. And don't get me wrong, sports has its place. That's fine. People can enjoy that. But when you have serious world events like the American debate, it's people are people, and they wonder what happens. Everybody wants change until change comes or it occurs, and then everybody wants to fight the change because they're not used to something new. Being unprepared for that, of course, isn't going to make the transition any easier. Something is going to happen. Something's going to change, and again, depending who gets in at the end of the day, could see either a radical change or a very, very small bits and pieces. But not being aware, not being prepared, it's mind blowing to me. People just do not want to put the work or effort into understanding what the hell is going on. And when it happens, Animal Farm is my favorite book, I think, of all time, because Animal Farm, for me, represents the Internet. As much as I love technology, it's a double-edged sword. You've got to be aware of these things. Anything could be changed nowadays. You see something in writing, in text, in a physical format like a book, it's not going to be altered without you knowing it. When I read an article one day online here, and then, let's say a year later, I want to look that article up, and I don't know if the text has been altered. I don't know if it's been changed. And we all know it's so easy to do. Look at what happened with WikiLeaks. Look at what's been released there, and that was supposed to be bulletproof. People aren't supposed to have access to that. It's amazing what we can do. It's amazing nowadays.
Andy, weigh in on
and what's
this
really sad. Yeah, I was just getting ready to. What really amazes me is that people only see things one way. Most people don't like me because I am, to use an old D&D term, Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a true neutral. I might agree with one side over the other, but I can see both sides, and I will point bad things out on both sides, and I will point good things out on both sides. What really kills me about Americans, and this has killed me for decades, is people will only see things one way. It's like, I'll use as an example. Okay, like with Donald Trump, he said all this stuff in the locker rooms, and now all these women are coming forward. He sexually harassed them. Okay, my question is, why are you just coming forward with this stuff now? And see, people get mad at me for saying that. They're like, oh, well, he's this and he's that. And I'm like, yeah, but why wasn't it important enough for these people to come forward sooner? And see, then people get really, really mad at me because people don't want to have to scrutinize why they jumped on the sheeple bandwagon and just said, oh yeah, Trump's terrible, he said this. Instead of looking at it and saying, okay, well, yeah, maybe he did say that, but he said it so long ago, why are they bringing it up now? And love him or hate him, that is how most Americans are.
That's how most people are.
It is one way.
Yeah.
It is one way. Their way, they only see things one way, and they can talk themselves in circles trying to convince you of why it's only one way.
Yeah. We had a similar problem.
That is what plays me.
Yeah. We had a similar problem here in Toronto. We had a mayor, Rob Ford, which, wow, talk about being under the gun. This guy was scrutinized for how much he ate at lunch. He was a little overweight to begin with. I mean, they tore him apart left, right, and center. Yeah, he had some drug abuse problems and other problems, of course. So it turned into a real circus show over here. But what was interesting wasn't so much as to what he did or didn't do. The problem I had is with the reaction of the people, because it no longer became about what his policies were or what he was producing for the good of, let's say, the city at this time. It was all about his personal style and what he said or didn't say with regards to his personal life, and it just became a little bit of a freak show, and the point was lost. It's very sad because, again, people get caught up in the things that really are, I'll say they're unimportant, because character is something, obviously, we all want people of good character to be in those positions, but when you get lost on the little idiosyncrasies of people, I mean, we all have them. It gets to a point where you say, like, what's important here? What matters? Because through all this crap that you're feeding me, I just want to know that fundamentally, is he doing the right thing in his position, or is he not, or she, or whoever is in power at the time? And I see that a little bit with Trump. And I'm not going to defend him so much as just sort of sit on a post and, like you say, be neutral. And by the way, that's a great D&D metaphor there. I'll have to remember that one. You have to kind of look at everything and put it in perspective. With regards to what he gets from the mainstream media, he gets a lot of attention, and none of it's positive. It really is quite amazing. It almost feels like a witch hunt. And Hillary, you don't hear much about it all, and yet she's got the spreadsheet there that shows violation of God knows how many things. I mean, since they were, her and her husband were, was it Arkansas he was governor of? Or
Arkansas,
something to that
yes.
effect? Yeah.
Arkansas.
I mean, here's a president who, the day he gets into power, basically his brother was up on drug charges. He was in jail or prison. He gave him I'm going to use the term discharge, but he basically got him out of prison. The word escapes me. I'm trying to use immediately when he took power. Pardoned him, got out of prison, and he's got a list of drug affiliates. If you are aware of the Clinton Chronicles or the report there that was issued prior to him getting his presidency, he's associated with 185 murders. Him and his wife, they're both in cahoots there. And that was what.
Oh yes, but do you know, Chris? If you bring up their I think what they call it, are the kill lists, the Clinton kill list.
Yeah.
If you bring those up in this country, you might as well barricade yourself in your house, because people will be at your door, beating your door down, saying, that's a conspiracy. And it's like, okay, well, how much research have you done? No, I read it here. I saw it here. It's like, no, how much research have you actually done?
Yeah, this is real stuff, and this stuff exists. And
I saw something so stupid the other day on Facebook. Somebody had posted something about how come Hillary Clinton didn't evacuate the people at Benghazi before the place was blown up and the terrorist attacked, and the other side of the post was because it wasn't her job to, it was someone else's to do so.
Well,
and I was
that's
like,
a very interesting
okay.
sense of humor. Jeez.
I was like, okay, really? So it wasn't the state. I think it said something like it wasn't the State Department's place. It was the Department of Defense's place or something like that. And I'm like, okay, really?
Yeah.
Really? But y'all will sit there and slander Trump like he's the Antichrist, but Hillary can do no wrong no matter what she's done. And it's interesting. I'm so glad you brought up their kill list, Chris, because I'm telling you, that is that is a pariah in this country. You bring that up, you're a nut job, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a hate monger.
I'm surprised.
Anything like that you can come up with.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have known. It's quite common knowledge up here. The people who follow politics, again, it's very well known. And I'm surprised to hear that take on it with regards to how people will react down there. It's unfortunate because this stuff is very, very pertinent, and things are happening. So I mean, again, you're on a fence. You've got sharks on either side, so to speak. And I wouldn't know as an American citizen what to do coming this forthcoming election. I honestly wouldn't know. It might be one of those spontaneous last-minute decisions given the options at this time. So I wish you all luck, and all of us in the world, I guess, because goodness knows where it's going to end up. Goodness knows.
Well, on that note, I want to ask you something.
Certainly.
In my research of my newfound friend, who I absolutely adore, you refer to yourself as, and here we are with the Internet. Now, you can tell me if this is a true statement or not. Mm-hmm. You refer to yourself as an optimistic mechalist. I think I pronounced it right. Nihilist. Now,
nihilist. That's what I am, Yvonne. I'm a nihilist.
I had to look the word up just so I would understand the word. And the meaning of a nihilist is this: a person who believes life is meaningless and rejects all religious and moral principles. Okay, now, how do you define yourself as a optimistic nihilist? Because just from talking to you, I know that you have principles. I know you have moral.
And actually, it's a bit of an oxymoron.
Take it away, Chris, because I have a feeling you and I are in the same boat, and I have a feeling that your views mirror mine. So you take it away, and then I'll pick up because I call myself a neo-nihilist, meaning, neo meaning new. I'm not into, okay, let's just kill everybody on the planet and blow everybody up. My take is, if you can't be part of the solution, at least don't be part of the problem. Do what you can and just stick to yourself. But you tell us your stance on it.
Common sense. It sounds like common sense to me. Optimistic Nihilist is a song I've written as well, and I'm trying to remember. I believe it's on the Black Swans at Dawn album, if I recall. And essentially, I had read or I saw a blurb that inspired me to write that. And essentially, what it is it's an oxymoron. Obviously, you cannot be an optimistic nihilist, and I kind of find the humor in that. If I have a sense of humor, that would be a little twisted in regards to the norm. But I have values, of course. I have some fundamental values, and some which are challenging because I was born and raised a Christian, so I'm very familiar with theology in a sense. And I took about 7 years of my life in the last 2 decades basically committed to both theology and conspiracy theories. Now, not in a sense of going to church and, doing what the Bible says and all these interesting little things, but studying religion, and not just Christianity, all religions, and getting a better understanding of exactly what it all means. And I'm not looking to fulfill a void in my life. I'm not even remotely concerned about that. I'm more interested in understanding almost from a scientific perspective. And what's interesting, and I'll get back to that later, is that I'm not a fan of science, but I'm going to use that concept in a sense of how things are looked at. Why are we all here? Sort of the bigger questions. What does it all mean? Were we created and how we were created and things like this. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and there's a lot of people who will bash religion of all sorts and kinds. And for one, I'm going to say this, and I'll go on record saying this, religion is a lot more important in some ways than people, I think, care to imagine it. And I know with the Muslim situation in the world today, particularly the Western world, there's been a lot of bashing of that particular religion and those people, specifically the radicals, obviously. The general public seem harmless enough, and that's fine. But my point being here is that religion is a very fundamental right at this point in time in the human race. I'm not saying all religions should be treated equally in a sense of the fact that what is legitimate and what isn't legitimate. I mean, people can believe in unicorns, they can believe all these things, that's fine. You can't just go around saying, hey, this is a religious belief, and I'd like to take advantage of the tax breaks, et cetera, et cetera. There are certain things that are based on written or on writings, be it ancient or, not so ancient anyways, and some of them have some real clout. And I'm personally quite swayed by the Christian Bible, King James Version, as to some of the prophecies and some of the things discussed in there. And I actually investigated this as much as I could for about 7 years, and I touched on other things too. But some of the mathematical codexes and some of the things involved there, again, from a scientific perspective, not so much from a faith that this may or may not be true. I'm going to look at this and really see what the meat of this is. And I'll tell you, from my perspective and my studies, there is a lot of meat there. It is very, very interesting stuff. Historically, I know in a sense of what we find archaeologically speaking, it's 100% accurate with regards to locations, times, and places and things like this. There's a lot going on there, so I do not dismiss it as so many do. And what I have found, and particularly in the Roman Catholic sort of division of Christianity, and I divide that very, very with a very broad line. If I was to say anything, I would be a Protestant on that side of the fence, whereas the Roman Catholics are a very, very different breed of Christian. And it is interesting speaking to many of them, both educated and not educated in the particular religion itself, how many don't really understand their own religion. And I have found that, and I'm picking on Catholics for the moment, but I shouldn't, it's all religions. So many people do not understand their own faith, and that to me is the biggest problem. Very similar to what we're talking about with politics. To blindly follow any organization, group, or individual without having a knowledge of what they're based on and what it's all about, that is very, very disturbing. And I think I talked myself off the beaten track here. What was the original question? I think was a little more specific. I broadened things a bit.
In fact, you were segueing, and I agree with you. People, for the most part, do not understand their faith. But this segues into your song, The Black Swan, because song, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to read just a little bit of it before we play it, and then we'll discuss it.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason. My co-host tonight is my really, really, really good friend and dark sister, Andrea Ding Van Scoic. My guest tonight is Auger, also known as Chris Lefort, and we are having some of the most wonderful discussions on the show we've had to date. So if you're listening in, it's only going to get better from here. The song we're fixing to talk about is called Black Swan, and we've just been discussing faiths and religions and the fact that most people do not understand their faith, nor do they understand the religion that they profess their faith to be, because they have not studied it. As Chris says, they blindly followed someone who preached it to them. This song, Black Swan, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, makes that point very well. The lyric goes, "In the twinkling of an eye and the storm of my mind, you were there. I'm aware that you stood by my side. And the temples of poppycock, through the portholes of grief, there I lay down, spread eagle to die. In this age of reason and this spamming of time, you were there. I am aware that you stood by my side. And this orchestration, we sway to the tune like a muse on the mantle of a world's pending doom. With visions of Zagonauts reaching up and on high, you were there, I am aware, that you stood by my side. In those fields of Islam where the Titans were born, I spread out like a starfish awaiting the dawn. And the main station we know sufferings rise, You were there, I'm aware. You stood by my side. In our lamentation, wisdom is unveiled, and I lie as a corpse in this brackened, failed field. The little bright spots are the stars in the sky. We are dead, 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 as they die, 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 die. We are all born from nothing, yet we all long to fly. We are black swans at dawn in a darkening sky. I'm going to play the song, Chris, because I love the song. And then
Thank you.
when the song quits, let's discuss this, because that song resonated with me on so many levels. So everyone, hold on while we play Black Swan by Auger. everyone. That was Black Swans by my guest, Auger. So, Chris, tell me about this song, because it struck a nerve with me. And based on our prior conversation before the song on faith and religion, tell me about it.
Well, this song is exactly that. It's about basically life and death, leaning more towards the death side and where we're going and what we're doing, and what may or may not be there. Essentially, it's about someone that's prepared to die and knows his death is awaiting him, knows spiritually that someone is at his side to take him or her to wherever they're going, and at the end of the day, essentially, there's nothing. We're not going anywhere. There's nothing. We're born from nothing. We're dying, and we go back to nothing. How you interpret nothing is essentially an individual kind of perspective from where that person stands religiously or spiritually. But yeah, the song is it's pretty straightforward in its meaning. I think most people get it. You know, there's a lot being said here. There's we talk about the fields of Elohim. We talk about Titans, the Nephilim. It's all kind of mentioned again. That's kind of Christian-oriented history, if you will, and a little Greek mythology in there just to keep it spicy, I guess. But essentially, my belief is that it's all related. It all boils down to one incident that may or may not have occurred many, many years ago on this planet, and that we've all sort of divided our interpretations and we formed these religions. And essentially, we know something's out there. We don't know what it is, but it's my belief that we've come and will return to nothing. And that's what it boils down to. It's an interesting song because it does resonate with a lot of people. I've had a lot of comments and reviews of this particular track. It's a big hit here in the Toronto underground club scene, and aside from its base meaning and gesture, I think that's pretty much it. If you're reading more into that, I'd be curious to know what you think. But
no,
that
is exactly. Andy, what's your take on it, hon?
Basically the same. It just, the story, if you can read between the lines and look between the words, is just unbelievable. It's not a song that you can just listen to and say, oh yeah, it's a cool song. If you actually take in the words, it's almost overwhelming.
That's really high praise, Andy. Thank you so much.
You're very
making me all
welcome.
giddy tonight. I don't usually get these great comments. I mean, goodness, thank you.
Well, and I agree with her. I agree with her because I have a very deep faith. I don't know how long you've been following, but a lot of things have gone on in my life in the past year that for someone else it might have shaken their faith. But like in the song, I always knew that someone was beside me. And when I read the lyrics to the song and then listened to the song, it only deepened the way that I feel. There is someone beside me. I could not have gone through what I went through without this deep, abiding faith. And whether we believe in Mother Earth and Father Sky or whatever our faith is, of course, like you say, other than wanting to chop people's heads off because we think that's what Muhammad wants us to do, it is that faith that sustains us through anything. And like you say, at the end of the day, very powerful. And at the end of the day, that's what helps us die.
Absolutely. There comes a stage, and I'm not as young as you may think I am in your life. Like you say, we've all gone through one traumatic event or another, and we all react differently. We all have different perspectives and views on how that affects us. But at the end of the day, as we get older, you start to realize that, there. Again, I'm going to speak from my perspective of things. There's a path. There's reasons that occurred. Things happen for reasons, is what I'm trying to say, that occurred in my life that led me to this path, that here I am today doing what I'm doing, enjoying doing what I'm doing, which, is half the battle in this world we live in today. And there's reasons for it, and something has guided me, and you may, laugh at it, you may ridicule it, but until you get there, you will never understand it. But when you're there, it just makes perfect sense. Everything just falls into place and makes perfect sense. And you can accept so much and do so much when you get to that stage that it actually makes everything else seem very small. And I think that's what people at that level start to realize, and I think that's why they're also a little more complacent with not getting up in arms about every little thing, because they understand there's a purpose for all of this stuff. And, you know, people may kind of scoff at the whole, you know, higher purpose kind of mentality, but, you know, when you're there, you're there. It's that simple. You'll either get it or you won't. There's no talking to someone to make them understand. It's just not going to happen until they get there.
No, because I got Andy, weigh in on this.
That was perfectly said. I mean, that was monumental, Chris, because
Thank you.
People have their own take on everything, and it's kind of like it's strange how we creatures called humans are. We like to see things only one way, and that's the way we want to see them. And we don't want to hear anything else because that might challenge our beliefs or our way of thinking or our style of life or our style of whatever. And the fact that if you try to explain to others and they don't get it, you're absolutely right. They're not going to. You've either lived it, experienced it, and you've had it happen, or you haven't, and you're still on the outside waiting to walk in. There's no explaining it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And that segues into a song that I could not get to download, but I want to talk about it because if this is what I think it is, this is a very prevalent epidemic in our society, and the song is called Angry Man. Mm-hmm. Will you tell the folks about this song, and then I will tell you what I thought it meant, and let's see if we agree.
Okay. Angry Man is actually interesting because it was sort of I'll call it a B-side almost with regards to where I thought it would go. And it actually has turned out to be a very, very popular song of mine. And I was pleasantly surprised by that because, again, I didn't really expect it. And that's some of the beauty of being an artist is, of course, you try to predict, hey, this is going to be a big one or this is going to be a good one. And then you get these things in the background that you didn't expect that blow up and suddenly, wow, I didn't think people would catch on to that. Angry Man is a perspective of someone basically who clearly, I'll use the term, is an alcoholic or drinks a lot. By the way, I am not one of those, although I do drink. I do not, how shall I say, share that problem in a sense. But I put myself in other people's shoes, and I have friends that are, either alcoholics or addicted to different substances and things like this. And you really see things when you're dealing with people like that or helping people like that, again, unless you know somebody that goes through that or has been through that or you yourself have been through that, don't understand those problems. It's very foreign because it's very abstract from the norm in a sense of how they deal and cope with elements. So what we have here is a gentleman who's clearly angry, he's upset. He drinks, obviously that doesn't help his anger, it feeds it into it further, and essentially dislikes the world, dislikes people around him, and it's just basically, it's a negative song in every aspect and perspective, and he's trying to reason with his inner self about all of it and justify all of it, but really he doesn't come to light or doesn't actually see the light at the end of the tunnel there, and it's just what he's got inside him, and he just drinks and he's angry, and that's about it. I mean, not a lot of what I would call overly deep meaning in this particular track, but it seems to have come across very well. Maybe it's partly the music itself. I've been told by people about the lyrics, or at least praised by some people. Some fans have really, really dig this song, and they like the music, and they've stipulated the lyrics are really awesome. And, I look at it, and I say, well, okay, thank you. Obviously, I'm flattered, but I didn't think they were that deep, to be honest with you. I didn't think this was one of the heavier songs I've written, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
One of the takes that I could hear it on my computer, but I couldn't get it out of the program that it was in to upload it here.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to play it. One of my takes on it, being a survivor of domestic violence, when I heard the song, what I heard was this man is like you say, he's an alcoholic, and along with alcoholism comes domestic abuse.
Absolutely, and that's in the first line of the song. There's it goes, "I don't want to smack her." Well, clearly that's definitely the first part I've illustrated with regards to that disease. Domestic violence is a huge part of alcoholism. It pretty much runs hand in hand. I hate to say that in a general way, but from my experience and the people I know who are related to that particular problem, they all seem to have that associated problem. So yes.
And it could resonate with men and women, because there are men who are domestically abused too.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't just happen to men and women. It resonates within the entire family, and it's not just physical violence. It's emotional violence and mental violence. And when you have someone with an addiction like that, it often leads to domestic violence. Andy, you want to weigh in on this too, honey?
Yeah, actually, I think what I got out of the song is frustration. A lot of people, and I don't want to make generalizations either, but I'm going to. I'm not popular anyway, so why not? I find that with each generation we get weaker. I remember reading in history books when people used to watch beheadings. People would gather around and watch the guillotine. People in America used to gather around and watch hangings. One of my ancestors was hanged in front of his wife and 8 children. And people used to not think anything about that. It was just life. You dealt with it and you went on. Now people don't seem to have that strength anymore. And I'm not saying that was a good strength to have, to be able to just be so callous, but people lived and survived. Nowadays, people have no strength. They can't make it. They can't survive. If everything doesn't go their way and the littlest thing makes them mad, they turn to drink, they turn to drugs, they turn to violence, and it's all dismissed away, where there used to be a time when behavior like that was absolutely unacceptable. If you had problems, you learned to deal with them. You didn't take them out on others. You didn't whine and complain. And just that was my take on it. It's just the frustration and the weakening, if you will, of the human race.
And that is the beauty of music, right, Chris? Each person and the same with books and the same with art.
I was going to say art in general, all mediums, yeah. It's subject to the interpretation of the viewer or the listener, and I find it fascinating because you do get these different perspectives when I'll write something or I'll play something, and people have these interpretations, and sometimes it's really amazing because it's probably more deep than the thought I put into sometimes the songs or whatever the case, and I say, wow, I wish I had actually thought of that because that's fantastic. But no, there is thought going into this stuff, absolutely. But yes, it's an amazing thing to hear and to discuss. And it really kind of makes, especially interviews like this, it makes it fantastic because, I'll be pondering this all night now, the different things we're talking about with regards to the music. And it's great.
That's why we call it off the chain, Chris, because I never know. I told you, I have notes here. I'm looking at my notes, but we go off the chain all the time simply because I want my audience to know my guest. I want my audience to understand on some level, on a personal level, my guest, because that makes them more inclined to say, I think I might like this person. Let me go out and get their work. Yeah.
Which is, that's a boon for all artists out there. It doesn't matter what media you work in. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what makes people. I mean, for sure.
And not every interviewer does that, and I don't understand it. They go straight to the meat of the matter. Well, that's all well and good. I like talking about the meat of the matter, but where can you go and get this kind of information?
No, and that's the beauty of what you do. And with regards to like the mainstream medium, with the amount of editing and cutting, and we have to fit it in this particular time slot, and we don't want to offend this percentage of whatever viewer. And those days, I'd like to think those days are finished. I know it's still out there, but they're dwindling because what you do is the future. When people want to get to know anything about anything, it's your type of show that's going to actually persevere and get to the real depth and meat of the subject. And it's fantastic what you do, Yvonne, and yourself as well, Andy. I know you've got all sorts of projects on the go, and I've witnessed many of them myself. And it takes real work, it takes real dedication, and unless you're in those trenches doing that stuff, you don't realize how much work is behind putting together a show like this. It's great, so I commend you for doing it, and for doing it for this long. Wow, good stuff.
And especially when you take the paths Yvonne and I take.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, now if you've just joined us, my guest tonight is Chris Lefort, and his project is NEO Auger. He is a fantastic artist, musician, songwriter, just an all-around great guy. Doesn't mind talking about anything. My co-host is Andrea Ding Van Scoyoc, who is also my dark sister, who I love dearly, and a former author. Now she does all kinds of stuff, too many things to. She does film productions. She gets on and talks about everything under the shining sun. She does zombie things. She does movie reviews, you name it, this kid does it. But if you have been with the show since 8 o'clock tonight and you all are saying, okay, anytime now, what good stuff you going to give us other than what you've already given us? Because I promised you guys a surprise. Now, you can thank my guest, Chris, for this, because I was the first one to hear his newest release, because he wants it, two of them. Andy and I were the first ones to hear these, because he wants these new releases debuted, and I'm so honored. I was just breathless when you told me that, Chris, because I thought you were just sending me the first song just to listen to and maybe pimp it a little bit, but when you said I want you to play it, my heart hit the floor, because that is an honor.
Well, thank you, and believe me, it's my honor to be here, so I'm very, very excited to have these go out. So
tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we get the distinct, exciting honor to first play NEO Auger's newest release called Die Anger. Tomorrow it will be available on Bandcamp, but you hear it first tonight. And then we'll talk about it. Hold on.
Sounds good.
Hey!
that, ladies and gentlemen, was Die Anger by Auger. This is one of his new releases, and Chris, tell me about this marvelous song.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for playing it here tonight. It's actually a kind of a whimsical song in some senses because the Die Anger is an angry song, and essentially, my thought going into this is that to kill the anger, you get angry because you can't kill the anger. So it's kind of ironic in a lot of ways. It's not lyrically heavy as are some of my others, but it's a little musically heavy, heavier than many. So it's interesting that the way it all came about and how it was sent off, and the way the final package, it really works. I'm very happy with it. It's an aggressive song, and it's kind of meaning the exact opposite of the aggression it portrays. So that's really all I can say about that song as it is. I'm just hoping people get it and that they kind of laugh and have fun with it, because it's one of the lighter songs in some senses that I've written.
Well, it makes sense to me. I know it makes sense to Andy. We get angry because we can't get angry.
That's right.
Actually, you want to hear something funny? Don't laugh.
Sure.
But you probably will anyway. When I first heard that song, it centered me. That song gives me power. If I'm feeling bad or upset about something, I listen to that song, and it's like, okay, I've got this. I can do this. I got it. So that's what I get out of it.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, because I find that maybe, and I've not really thought about it until you've just said it now, I find that when you do listen to aggressive music like that, it does actually focus you. And I don't know if that's something that's common with everybody, but now that you've mentioned it, because I do obviously listen to heavier music at times, and there are reasons for that. When I need to get work done or something else, I mean, it's just like going to a gym, right? People put on the gym music, which is usually something of a faster beat and a little more pumped up, and get you excited, and it's to focus. It's actually to focus. So interesting thing you just brought up there, and I think I agree with you in that regard, and how it's interpreted or taken in by people that probably will help them focus. There you go.
Yeah, that's my go-to song. It's like, yeah.
Excellent.
Well,
excellent.
on that note, now, kids, on that note, let's go to the second song, because I don't want to run out of time before we play this song, because this is the second song, ladies and gentlemen, that Die Auger is releasing, and like I said, tomorrow you can get them on Bandcamp, but tonight you get to listen to them, so you can go buy them tomorrow. This one is called Twisted Oblivion. Now, this song just blew me away. Just listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. ladies and gentlemen, that was Auger's newest release, Twisted Oblivion. Okay, Chris, this song makes me want to get up and dance.
Excellent, because that's always the best thing to do with with my music. The goal is to get up and dance, let loose, let the energy out. It's a positive experience. Who cares what people think, how they're going to look? Just get out there and do it. It's a very depressing song. I love it myself. I think it's one of the better songs I've written in some time. Essentially, it's about the collapse. We talked earlier about societies imploding, great civilizations, and etc. It is about the collapse of such a society, and using the twisted irony in the chorus there, it'll talk about at one moment the cost of our eating, and essentially that is our consumption. As we do today, we consume and we devour the planet at the rate we're going. I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago we passed the carbon threshold, so we're at the point of no return. We passed that now. Not a lot of positive news for those people out there who are hoping we'd somehow divert the inevitable end, but it seems that we're well on our way. And the whole concept of the twisted oblivion is that we're again killing ourselves, and that's the twist. Is it's nothing outside of the human factor that's going to be our own demise, and it's repeating history as it has. It's a cyclical thing. And here we go. Where we return is back into the emptiness. We're falling down, and essentially we're falling back into nothing. How and what form we will rise up again will be yet to be determined. I guess we'll see, or at least some of our ancestors may. But things aren't looking so good for us here on planet Earth. And I'd like to pretend there's an upbeat, twist to this song, but there's not. It's pretty much a blunt, sort of in-your-face reality. It's depressing. But through that depression, like you say, you want to get up and dance and just enjoy what you can, not to be unconscious of what's going on the planet. Again, most of my stuff is somewhat politically moving and oriented, but at the same time, you can't see. I guess this is it's an issue bigger than music itself. It's the world that we live in. You mentioned about people being let's use the term wimps there. Andy, you were talking a little bit about that earlier in the conversation. We live in a society that there are so many people on antidepressants and, upset about life. And like you say, there's an inner strength that has just been completely lost on, generation after generation. It seems we get weaker. I agree with that whole comment and how you illustrated it. There is something missing from what I would call the human spirit, or the lack of the human spirit, which we now have. There are generations older than myself that, man, these people were tough as nails. They could take anything. They've lived through everything. And I don't see that personally in the youth of today, the new generations coming out. I see a laziness. I see a complacency. I see, nothing really matters. But again, that could simply be because the times we've lived in haven't seen the wars and the different kinds of societal collapses that have gone through the ages. We, in the last, I'll say, 100 years now, roughly, have been, in the Western civilization, have been living pretty darn comfortably. And, I don't mean to be a depressing musician in a sense of the music I put out, but I'm attracted to the darker side of things. I actually feel better sometimes getting into that depressive state, because when I get out of it, I feel great. It's almost like a release in a sense, some kind of catharsis that just, it's out of my system. I feel great. After I've completed the song, okay, let's move on to the next order of business. But I'm glad that people out there can appreciate that. And I'm very happy to hear you guys enjoyed that one. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Oh, yeah, I want to get up and dance too, but also that the songs give me like different little themes in my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear one song, it'll make me feel one way. One song will make me feel another. And it goes just deeper than, I'm just sitting here listening to music and my life sucks. And so, it goes deeper than that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a lot of people and their take on music, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't get it. Maybe I'm just old.
Let me tell y'all something. While that song was playing and I was mentally up and dancing, I was mentally writing a book about the lyrics of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the characters.
I was sitting here dancing in my chair. I was sitting here dancing in my chair.
Well, again, there's no subtle... Yeah, go ahead. Go, sorry.
The character that I saw was standing on the edge of the precipice, and he was looking at total destruction below him. And he was singing, why do we have this twisted oblivion? What happened? And then it goes back to the beginning of what brought them to the Twisted Oblivion. The whole thing played out in my head in a 5-minute song. I hate when that happens.
That's excellent, though. I like that interpretation
That's
as well.
awesome.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and
very
that song makes me feel, if I need to feel mysterious and evil and like I have some power over something and like I'm in control, that song does it. That song definitely does it.
And I was hoping, too, in the course of writing the different songs, I try to stay within the genre of my, my neo-industrial Gothic kind of thing. This one definitely leans heavily around the Gothic side, whereas the Dianger is definitely more industrial sounding. So I want to make sure I maintain that sort of consistency throughout the album. This song actually isn't released on Bandcamp till November 11th, whereas the Dianger will be released tomorrow. So this was sort of a real early sort of treat, if you will, with regards to this being released.
Honor.
It's still
Andy,
the honor's all mine.
We're humbled because
no kidding.
because we were the first to hear it and to be able to present it out there for people to want to wait with bated breath. When can I get it? When can I get it? And in that vein, I want you to tell everybody where your music can be found, where you can be found, how they can follow you, and all the good stuff, because I guarantee you after tonight, you're going to be exploding with people saying, I need this music and I need it now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, essentially, like all digital mediums nowadays, I'm everywhere. I'm on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, CD Baby. My goodness, I literally worldwide at this point, and pretty much any digital downloading store or center will have my stuff now. I've gotten pretty popular in that route. To get physical copies, that may be a bit more of a task. I do sell physical copies at my shows, and I used to sell them online, but I felt the difficulty with that was the turnaround. I'm just not around to check up on these things, and maybe some of your listeners don't know, I'm a completely independent artist. I'm not signed to any label. I do all my shows, my bookings, all the events that I throw and do, and I do all sorts of other stuff on the side with regards to DJing. I do nightclubs and things like this, completely independent. So the difficulty is that selling hard copy CDs online was they have specific turnaround times, and I wouldn't even see the email in the sort of window to time I'm supposed to have this things posted and sent out to the customer. I wouldn't be at a computer or be able to even see that I had sold something, and so that became a problem. So as it stands, I mean, by all means, you can contact me directly through Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's Auger. You can punch that up. I also host something called Rage Page. That's via Facebook as well. You can email me directly at Gmail, diaugermusic@gmail.com. Just send me a line, drop me a message. Those are the easiest ways to contact me because, of course, I have access to that stuff on my phone all the time. I'm playing shows constantly, although I haven't broken into the U.S. yet. I'm doing shows here mostly in Canada at this point, and I'm hoping in the new year to rectify that. I have a lot of things in the works. The difficulty as an independent artist is it's kind of getting all these things lined up. There's a bit of a, how shall I say, logistics issue with regards to being able to travel over the border, licensed as a licensed musician, and doing this all sort of legit over the table and doing things right. And the amount of time I'm allotted to be in certain areas and things like this. So it's coming. It just haven't got there yet, but definitely well within Canada. I'll be all over the place by next year. So hopefully we'll be able to catch you in Florida at some time. I know you have a place up there called the Castle, and I'm very interested in checking that out because it's got a great reputation.
Oh, yeah, you got to go see the Castle.
Yeah,
you got to go to the Castle. Just good luck getting in touch with anybody there.
Yeah.
I know someone that I wanted to film a movie there at one time. I had a production studio. I wanted to film one of my movies there. We never could get anyone. The mailbox is always full. It's the type of place you got to have somebody go in there and talk to somebody for you, from what I hear.
Okay, see, well, these are good tips, and that's half the battle is again, being an independent and doing everything myself. There are just so many clubs and people, and trying to stay on top of these particular venues and what time slots are available and dates and things. It's overwhelming at times, to be honest with you. And I may have to.
Have it any other way.
Yeah, no, that's it. It is kind of a double-edged sword because you love the freedom to be able to make those decisions. Of course, it's like any small business owner. I mean, you own your own business, you're your own boss, but boy, oh boy, you're going to put in the hours. So, it is what it is, and we'll get there. It's just a matter of time, and got to have some patience, and sooner or later it'll happen. So, fingers crossed that all comes through on the sooner end of things as opposed to the later. But we will see. We will see.
Well, I keep saying if I get any money, and I'm coming up there to Canada, I'll drag the husband with me. We'll come up there to Canada and see your shows if I ever get any money. I've got a passport. I'm ready to go.
What I do at the end of every show, because we are dreamers, if nothing else, we as artists are dreamers. And I ask my guests to give advice to the dreamers out there who haven't yet taken that leap of faith and said, I can do this, even when someone is whispering in my ear, no, you can't, you're not good enough, or you'll never make it, or it's an impossible dream. What would you tell a dreamer that came to you and said, Chris, I have a dream?
Wow, that's a very, very deep question. And truth is, I do have an answer to that because I have gone through those exact same symptoms. I've had people tell me, what am I, crazy, the music industry and all the things that go along with it, all the negativity. And it's not that it's negative or not. It's actually I'm going to use the term, it's a coming of age kind of scenario. You get to a point in your life where you look at things, again, you look at them maybe differently than you did in your youth. And be it young or old, it doesn't matter at what point this will occur. It will occur. And what I'm going to say to you is if this is truly something you want, and you will know this as an individual, absolutely, there will be no question about it. This is what you want to do or want to be or want to aspire to be, then you need to put 150% of your time and effort and energies into that. There's no, we've heard it through even business after business that, every seminar that you've ever seen or been to, we're all going to tell you, there's no 25% effort. There's no 50% effort. 150% into everything that you do towards that goal, and it will happen sooner or later. You're going to have hard times just because you're trying and you're doing well or whatever the case does not mean you're immune to anything. Things will happen. You've got to put your chin up, persevere, deal with it, and just keep focused and keep trying. There's no easy way of doing anything, but at the same note, there are no rules. One of the few things I'm a little concerned about because I came on sort of as a late bloomer with regards to understanding some of this stuff. We all go to school, be it high school or if you end up going to a post-secondary university or college or whatever the case, and we're constantly told this is the right way to do it, this is the way to do it. And yet in life, if you'll notice, the people that really that move and shake the foundations of anything are the ones who go outside of those rules and break them and do it their own way. So more than anything that I've noticed, particularly in the arts world, there are no rules. There's no one that's going to tell you this is going to be right or wrong because they don't know. You have to go out, experience yourself, and whatever works for you, that's the way you do it. And, for the most part, as long as you're within a legal world of, a legal reality, screw the consequences. If this is what you believe and you believe it's going to work, it will work. Put your 150% into it. Be committed, and it will work. And that's my advice to anybody on any kind of discipline or field. That's what you got to do to succeed in anything. Particularly on the world scale today. Today, with more competition around the world than ever, there's no half-assed way about it anymore. You have to be committed.
Yes, you do, because if you don't, then you fail.
Or you will just be buried by the quantities of other people out there who will be committed. It's that simple.
That's true. That's very true. Andy, have you got any closing thoughts?
No, just exactly what Chris said. Don't ever let anybody stop you because, Yvonne, when I was writing how many haters I had. I had people starting threads about me on message boards about how I was a nothing and I had no talent, and that's why I was choosing to self-publish. And look what I did. I became a Borders bestseller, but for a self-published author back in the day.
Incredible.
Thanks. That was 2005, which was deemed impossible because I did it self-publishing. So, yeah, Chris, everything you said, don't let anyone stop you. Don't let – I had people trying to bring me down left and right. Just trashing me. I had one guy that started a thread about me on a message board, and when I came on there and very eloquently answered and said, look, I realize my stuff may not be for everyone, but I'm doing it my own way. He actually came back and said, okay, well, yeah, I kind of feel bad now because I've never read any of your stuff. I'm just going by what everyone else is saying.
Wow.
And, yeah. And the bad thing was the majority of the people on the site were saying, "Oh, I don't know who she is. Do we hate her? Are we supposed to hate her?" And
I mean, that's a perfect example of what we've been talking about all night. You know, and I'll say this just en masse to the public. Whatever you're into, I don't really care what it is. Just be aware and learn about it and understand it. So if someone on the street is also into that, and you can have an intelligent conversation about whatever the subject is, you got to know your stuff, man. Wow.
And be open to learn.
And right, and that was my whole point. Don't let anyone stop you. And it goes beyond the stupid saying, "Oh, haters gonna hate." It goes beyond that. It goes with, you've got to have the skin, you've got to have the bravery, the self-confidence. Don't let anyone stop you ever. I mean, look at everything you do, Chris. You are just absolutely incredible. I mean, part of me wants some great label to come in and sweep you up, and then another part of me doesn't want them to, because then you'll lose all this power and more than likely the creativity you have. So,
you know,
you have to have the self-confidence.
Yeah, well, then that comes with you after a while. I mean, after you've done these things, you start to feel a little more confident of your own abilities, and that's a huge part of succeeding too. It's,
absolutely.
You know, you first start, you don't know what to think. You're listening to other people, and you know, not always the most positive feedback and things. But until you get to a stage where you've done this, and then you start to assess things, and you sit back and, you know, from a distance look at this and say, you know what? No, I'm not crazy. I'm able to do this. I have confidence now in what I'm doing because I understand it, and that changes the game quite a bit.
And when you decide that you're in this game, because if you don't do it, you will go insane, for one thing.
Absolutely.
And number two, what you create is not for everybody. That's okay, because we're all different. And number three, you really don't give a flip if you've got haters, because you know what? They know you're out there.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. It's you're not creating, as an artist in any medium, you're not creating for people so much as for yourself. It's a way of expressing whatever it is you have inside that needs to come out. If people jump on board and enjoy whatever it is you do, you know, more power to you and everybody else for that. But you can't get into any of this arts business with regards to, you know, be it artistic visually or musically, and expect to please people. That's not what it's about. It's a personal thing. That's why we're also, you know, off the wall or off the chain, so to speak. And
we are off the chain.
That's just the reality. Absolutely.
This whole show's been off the chain, but that's okay. That's why it's named Off the Chain. And if people want to listen, they can. If they don't have to, because I know that this show is not for everybody, and that's okay. It is for me and the guests that like you, that honor me and make me so humble to agree to come on the show and listen. Did we lose Chris?
I hope not.
Yeah, we lost Chris.
Oh, no.
Yes, we lost Chris. He needs to call back
Skynet.
in.
Yeah, Skynet is at it again.
Yeah, they are. Gotta love them. See if I can get him to call back in. Bless his heart. I hate we lost him. I don't know why we dropped him. Maybe he'll call back in.
Like I said, it's Skynet. Any problem with technology, I blame on Skynet. There's Chris.
There you are.
Am I back? Yeah,
You're
I suddenly
back.
just disconnected there. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to you. I'm thinking the last 7 minutes of the show, I pissed him off already.
No. It just cut off all of a sudden, but it was only a moment or so we're okay.
Yeah, we're good. But what I was saying is the show is for my guests to give them free exposure because I believe in paying it forward. People have been good to me through the years, very good to me, and have helped me on my journey. So now I want to help my friends in my network on their journey, and when y'all honor me with blessing me with coming on this show, my heart swells with pride and with gratefulness, and I am so appreciative of that.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and Andy, it's such a pleasure to speak to you as well. We've been talking online for so long, and finally get to, you know, put a voice to the text, so to speak. And this has been an honor, and it's been fantastic, and I hope to do it again sometime. Very much.
It's been nice speaking with you too, Chris. Oh yeah. Now Yvonne's got her hooks into you. You're not going anywhere.
You will be back after the first of the year, because I know after the first of the year you're going to have some new music out there.
Yeah, the new album should be,
So
first quarter of next year. Mm-hmm.
So what I want to do is get with you, and let's go ahead and get you booked for after the first of the year, and we'll start teasing people, because that's how I roll. And get
Sounds
you back
fun.
on here, because you are one of my favorite guests. You're not afraid to talk about any of the issues. You're not afraid to meet them head on, and it's nice to be able to have discourse and debate without hate and discontent.
Absolutely.
Chris is a very intelligent speaker. I mean, it's just I've dug this whole show.
Yeah, not only is he intelligent, but he has intellect, and the two things are different. You can be intelligent and not have any intellect at all. I've ran across a few of those in my day. But, Chris, you bring so much to this show that I'm just wordless. Imagine
thank
that.
you so much, both of you.
He's a thinker,
I'm
and I like that.
Yep. You're a very deep thinker. Ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
You're a thinker. And I appreciate that, because most thinkers, this goes back to what we've been talking about all night. Most thinkers think that they're thinkers, and they're not. They can only think one-dimensionally. And that doesn't make one a thinker. You examine and look at and can dissect the issues and, dare I say, for lack of a better word, with no emotional attachment. And if there is, you still have a pragmatic outlook on it, and that is something that you don't find in today's world.
Well, thank you for that. I very much appreciate all the compliments, and for me and my music. Wow, we thank you. It's just a tremendous. Thank you very much.
We only speak the facts, ma'am. We only speak the facts.
Oh yeah, Yvonne and I don't worry about who we tick off.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's show, if you've been with us since 8 o'clock, this has been a fantastic show. It's been one of the best to date. My guest tonight, who I absolutely adore, is Auger. My co-host is my friend and dark sister, Andrea Dean Van Scoik. Both of these beautiful people you can find on Facebook. Just go look them up. Please, please, please go and get Auger's music, because there's so many stories in all of his music. There's so many life lessons in all of his music, and it makes you want to dance. It makes you want to think.
That's for sure.
It makes you want to take stock in your life, because like Andrea and myself, Chris is an independent artist. We are not backed by any big labels or any big publishers. We do our own thing. We manage our own events. We manage our own work. We own it. Good, bad, or indifferent. We own it. It is ours. We love it. We do it, because if we don't, we will go insane and have the world is insane. Yes. So we own this. So go and download Chris's music. It is on iTunes, CD Baby, Bandcamp. Look it up and go
Amazon, Spotify, you name it. Yeah.
I've seen you on YouTube. I've got your playlist on YouTube saved. I listen to it on YouTube.
SoundCloud. I mean, if you just punch Auger in on Google, a whole plethora of things will come up. So yeah, I'm findable, very findable.
And he's very accessible. Trust me, he's very accessible. On August the 26th, I will be interviewing Andrea Dean Van Scoik, my co-host tonight. I call her Andy because I can. And it's right before Halloween, so look for that show to be interesting. Next Wednesday night, I will have another musical artist named Kenny Wilson on my show. He is an old friend of mine, and he writes and plays some very beautiful, beautiful music. Not going to tell you about it. You just got to tune in. Andy, thank you, my love.
Oh, you're welcome, my dearest dark sister. I love you. Chris, it was wonderful meeting and speaking with you. This has been fabulous.
Thank you. It has been great on my end, too. Thank you both so much.
And Chris, honey, you're coming back. Understand that.
Absolutely.
You're
in my crosshairs now, so you can't make excuses because I have ways
I told you, Chris, there's no escape.
Yeah.
There's no escape. Yvonne's got her claws in you. There's no escape.
Well, you're both on my mailing list for the new album, so when that comes up, I'll send it out to you, and we'll talk about another show, and we'll work it out from there. I would assume, but feel free anytime to drop me a line, and of course I'll respond, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely,
awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen. Until next Wednesday, be ready for Off the Chain with me, your host, Yvonne Mason, because you never know where we're going to wind up. Anything goes on any given night of our show. And you two stay on the line. The show's going to end shortly, but you two stay on the line for a minute. I will see you all next Wednesday. Please share this show. And if you have a platform, you have a song, you have a book, you have a piece of art, you have a business, you want to be on my show, you can be on my show. I need you on my show. And with that, I say good evening, ladies and gentlemen, until next time. We are off the air, but we're still recording, so anything we say now will show up in the archive show.
Okay.
So, Chris, are you worn out?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, good.
Oh, no, I can only imagine what his shows are like. Like I said, one of these days I'm going to come up there and I'm going to see one of the shows, but I can only imagine the energy.
Well,
I'll probably have to have a case of Red Bulls and some Starbucks coffee.
Gummy bears.
It's interesting, too, as a solo artist, it was quite a journey when you perform live to sort of figure out, basically to create a show as a one-man band. It's been quite an interesting journey, is what I'm trying to say, trying to figure out how things would work, how we would put it together, how to entertain people, because playing the music and entertaining people are almost two complete elements now. And it's evolved at this point now where I do have a very decent show, and there's an energy involved, and it can get pretty wild. So, yeah, things have really progressed to a point now. Now's the time to see me, as opposed to it was, let's say, a year, as opposed to a year ago. Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out the show, and I'm going to wait. It's going to take about 30 minutes for it to go into archives. And what I will do, this show will immediately go up on iTunes under my podcast. It will immediately go to Stitcher, which if you have Sirius Radio in your car, you can listen to the show in your car, which I love. Then once the show gets through archiving and I download it, I will upload it on Spreaker. Spreaker sends it to TuneIn Radio, where it's syndicated. It will send it to YouTube. Then I will upload it to Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Podcast.com, and Podomatic, which are my podcast.
Yeah.
Between all of those entities, we have over 4,000 listeners.
Wow.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, that's
so
impressive.
You're gonna get exposure, my friend.
Well,
just
very
on
kind.
this show alone, we're almost to 1,000. Just on this show alone, and we've only been on this show for a little over a month.
Wow, that's fantastic. Good for you. I mean, that's quite an audience you've garnered to yourself. That's excellent.
Well, I send flying monkeys out to people that don't listen to me, and they make them.
I was about to say, yes. Yvonne, you either listen to Yvonne or she makes you pay. So.
But
she was a bounty hunter. She will find you.
Yeah, I am a bounty hunter. But what I will do is when I upload them to the podcast, I will tag you. I'll put it on Facebook and I will tag you. And you can go on any of those podcasts or the show itself and download the show and then put it up on your pages. Use any of it to promote yourself with. This is my gift to you, my friend.
Well, thank you so very much. That's very kind.
Be sure and tag me too, honey. I spend more time on Twitter than I do on Facebook. Facebook's more personal stuff for me, and where I park my websites, like my film company and stuff like that. I just park them there and use them as my websites. But I spend the majority of my time on Twitter. So if you'll tag me on Twitter, I'll be sure and repost, because I know I've already got one person that is listening to your show, and Chris is listening to your music, because I mentioned the other day that I was going to be co-hosting, and he said, well, where can I find this? And I said, okay, well, here's the show. And I tagged you in it too, Chris, and then he got back on Twitter with me and said, okay, following both of them now.
Yeah, I think I know which one, the gentleman you're talking about.
Yeah, Manimal. Yeah, I think he, Mount Manimal or Manimal, yeah.
Manimal, yeah.
Yep, that's him.
Excellent.
And what happens with my Facebook feed, Chris, is it's linked to Twitter, so anything I put on Facebook automatically goes on Twitter. So when I tag Andy, she'll get it, and then it goes on my Twitter feed too.
Mm-hmm.
So, my friend, you're going to be bigger and brighter and more popular than ever, and you're probably going to start cussing me because you can't get your work out fast enough.
No one would ever cuss you, my dearest.
Yeah, they have before. That's okay. They're lost. So on that note, my two beautiful people, I will say adieu until we meet again.
Yeah, good night. Good night, my
Absolutely.
lovelies. I have to hit the sack. I have to be at the shop in the morning, so I have to be up at 5. So
okay. Well, good day to both of you. Thank you again for having me on. It's such a pleasure doing this, and I can't wait to do it again. And I guess I'll say till next time. And, please, any comments or questions or anything, please direct them to me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible in the meantime. And we'll just go from there.
All right, darling.
So,
I'll get
have a great night.
set up. You too, and we'll get a date set up for you to come back on after the first of the year.
Excellent. Okay.
Awesome. Good night, Chris.
Talk to you again. Good night, Andy. Good night, Yvonne. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
When I listen to Audible, I'm not flying to my 3rd sales meeting this month. I'm on a romantic date with my vampire boyfriend, Pierre. That pale skin, those dark, mysterious eyes, and those pointy teeth. Take me away, Pierre!
Ma'am?
I want to become queen of the night.
Ma'am, something to drink?
Water, please?
Go to audible.com/start trial, and your first download is free. Audible, stories that surround you.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.